Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 2 of the Mile You're In podcast. You already know who this is. Let's get right into it. I'm talking about redeeming yourself. One of the things that I really love about running is that it's so relatable to life. There's so many things that happen in life or in running that relate to the other. So many times you'll go through something and you're like, man, I could use this in other aspects of my life. So a lot of things we go through in life, whether it's a letdown, a failure, whatever it may be, any kind of negative scenario, we go through that. And the first thing most of us want to do is come back and try again. Most of us are not okay with failure. Most of us want to succeed. So when I think about redeeming myself, there's a lot of things I've gone through in life where I've come back and bettered myself, and it took multiple attempts, lots of failures, things that I'm still struggling with today. I'm improving, some that I've overcome, but that's life, and that's also running. But I've noticed the longer you run, the more of those you have to deal with. Just like in life, the longer you're alive, the more you experience, the more you go through. So there's more that you're going to learn from and grow from. But not only that, actually, now that I think about it, this is something I didn't even have in my notes. I just thought of this now. When you challenge yourself, you're going to set yourself up for more failure. As negative as that sounds, I think about, because again, this wasn't in my notes, and I'm not going to stop to try to perfect this, but the Jordan quote about he remembered the shots that he missed, the game-winning shots that he missed more than the ones that he made. And it's things like that. People like Kobe, LeBron, as much as I personally don't like Tom Brady, you got to think of people like that. They won't accept failure. They won't tolerate it, and they'll do whatever it takes to continuously try to come back and do better the next time and perfect themselves if possible. The whole goal is to perfect yourself in every aspect of your life. So getting back to the actual notes that I had here, it's learning from your mistakes. A lot of times, the first one that I even think about is when I ran the Fort Lauderdale half. That race is known for extremely windy conditions. The week before that race, I ran a 10K, ended up being my fastest 10K. So I run the half, I'm a good 6 miles in, I'm feeling great, probably even better than I felt at the 10K the week before. And then I hit the wall. I wasn't pacing myself. I wasn't running smart. I was just riding that high that I experienced for the first 6 miles. And when I hit that wall, it was bad. I mean, the legs felt like jello, felt like they were bricks tied to my ankles. I just couldn't get any momentum going. I walked the majority of the last half of that race, and it was my worst half marathon ever. So I told myself, I'm coming back next year, and I'm going to kick this race's butt. Originally, I was going to say a different word, but I got to keep this safe for work, so everybody can listen to this. Fast forward to the next year, the race is coming up, but I'm not thinking about the fact that I signed up for the New York City Marathon, one of the hardest marathons that you can run. I run that marathon. A week later, here I am trying to redeem myself. I will say this, I learned from the first one because of the windy conditions, the bridges that you have to go through. I adapted a little bit this time around, but it was still a failure. And that's where you have to think about success can be defined in many ways. When you're going for redemption, you may not always hit the main goal, but if you still hit your other baby steps or your minor goals, however you want to refer to them, it's still success. You still in a way redeemed yourself. So in that race, I said, you know what, I ran faster. It wasn't as bad, but it wasn't my main goal. But you know what, considering the circumstances of my stupidity of not learning from the last one and not racing the week before, I'll take it. And that was something I learned the third year in a row of doing that race. I didn't race the week before, so I was totally fresh, only to find out that the course changed. So yes, I ran the third one faster, but it's kind of a bittersweet, or I guess you would say there's an asterisk next to it because it wasn't the same course. So I feel like I didn't really redeem myself, but it is what it is. Then I think about another race that I tried to do that in, the Southernmost Marathon. The first time I ran it, that was my very first marathon ever. My goals even going into that race were so low because I didn't know what to expect. I predicted around a 5-hour finish, ended up running 4 hours and 8 minutes, which was a total shock to me. My wife missed me at the finish line because I told her, don't even show up till about the 4-hour mark, maybe 4:15ish, and prepare to wait for a little bit. And here I come. She missed me. We were both shocked, but I ran that and had the opportunity to run it again the next year and wanted to do better, wanted to redeem myself and run even better now that I was an experienced marathoner, if you'd say, and totally different circumstances. The weather was different. It was so much more humid than the first time around. I don't think I've ever seen as many people walk for as long in a marathon. It was brutal conditions. My time was actually, I think, 10 minutes worse than the first time around, only to find out I placed third in my age group. So it's one of those things where you have to understand that sometimes when you go to redeem yourself towards something, that the circumstances aren't always going to be the same. Conditions are going to change. Competition may change. The course may change. The weather may change. Your body may change. Like for me, I've had different weights going into races. Sometimes I've been lighter. Sometimes I've been heavier. Sometimes I felt good. Sometimes I felt terrible. I've gone into races fully healthy and other races with lingering injuries. You have to plan, but you gotta battle the circumstances and accept what you're given on that day. And that's where you have to learn from the good and the bad, because as I've been saying, things are gonna change from time to time to where you may go and redeem yourself in some areas, but then in other areas fail. Because I think about another race that I went to redeem myself in, which I was successful, but it was the Wildcat 100. The first one I ran, my first 100-mile ever. So I didn't know what to expect after 50 miles. That was the longest distance I had ever run up to that point. I wasn't expecting the elevation changes. I was told it was totally flat, which is not very true. And I learned a lot in that race. And when I came back the second time around, yes, I did finish maybe 2.5 hours faster, if I'm correct. Definitely 2 hours. Two and change, we'll say. So yeah, I finished faster. So technically, yes, I reached my goal. I redeemed myself. But when I think about the pace that I was on and how many times I still quit and gave up on myself and allowed things that I thought I had fixed and worked on, when I think about that, I'm like, man, like there's still so much room for improvement. There's so much more that I could accomplish if I just continue to practice and work hard and train and be smart and be humble. And that's why I signed up for it again. I'm going back for round 3, but I got another one. There was a point I was chasing a sub 20-minute 5K. And I remember a good friend of mine told me, you can't race yourself to that pace. You can't race yourself into that conditioning. And whether it was my pride or ego that kicked in, it made me want to prove him wrong. But I did what I could do with the time that I had, the motivation that I had to keep it fun and to keep it exciting. And I was racing pretty much, if not every weekend, every other weekend, 2-3 times a month. I was out there running 5Ks, trying to race myself into sub 20 conditioning. And I would go on some training runs and push myself. And I was doing what I thought was going to be successful, and I was just failing. I was failing. A good friend of mine was running a lot of those races with me and started unintentionally pacing me during some of these races because I'd start out fast. She would catch up to me and then kind of just drag me along and encourage me to keep up with her. And it wasn't until this one race where I was just dying. I was failing at the halfway mark, and she passed me and said, just hang with me. And I was riding on her. I was literally staring at her feet, just saying, just keep your eyes locked into this zone right here. And if her feet get out of that zone, you're slowing down. It was one of those things, like stay on her feet there and you're on pace to do it. When I looked up and saw the 3-mile marker, I took off at an incredible pace, possibly the fastest I've ever run. I hit 20 minutes and 6 seconds, and I was so excited because I had finally at least PR'd, but I was like, man, 6 seconds. What little thing could I have changed in that race to make this possible, to make up 6 seconds? And it was 2 years ago. Now that I think about it, it was 2 years ago on Thanksgiving Day. I ran the Fort Lauderdale Turkey Trot, and I just felt it. I felt it that day standing on the start line. And halfway during the race, a good friend of mine, I knew he was consistently running 20 and sub 20. And when he passed me at the halfway mark, I just told myself, hang with him and we got this. Even if he's breaking away a little bit, if we can stay close to him, we got this. And I just remember coming around the corner at around the 3 mile mark, and I saw the clock and I had about a minute, and it's just, I mean, I was overwhelmed. The emotions of trying so many times and failing, and knowing that as long as I didn't trip or do something stupid, it was gonna happen, and it happened, and I was so excited. I fell after I crossed the line. I started crying like a baby. Everyone was coming over that knew me. They knew I'd been trying for a year and a half to do this, and it was a celebration. You know, I redeemed myself. It finally happened, and it's because of the success that I've had in running and moments like those. It's what led me to thinking about the Keys 100 last year and how bad I failed. You know, so many new things, no crew, no loops. You know, it was just a whole nother race, a whole nother brand new scenario. The crazy thing was, it was out of the 400 milers I've done, it was my second best time, but just so many things went wrong. Almost anything that you can think of went wrong during that race, and I was still able to push through and overcome. And because of that, everything else that I've accomplished recently, let's try it one more time. You know, I know I'm going back with no crew. I might have a little help this time, but I said, you know what, man, we did it last time with no help. We can do it again, because now we've learned from our mistakes. We'll be smarter. And that's the one main thing I just want to remind you guys of is, yes, you can fix your mistakes, but you might make other ones along the way. So it's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to do what you did right the first time. The second time, you're probably going to fix a lot of the mistakes from the first time and mess up on some of those other ones, because you might be so focused on not screwing up again that you screw up the other things that you did right the first time. You don't know. It might go perfect. It might get worse. I might screw up again things that I screwed up last time and screw up the things that I did right the first time. You don't know. That's the whole part of challenging yourself and just pushing yourself to see what you can accomplish, man. I think too many times in life, we're all afraid to take chances. I've taken chances that I'll be honest, were dumb. I've done some dumb stuff thinking, maybe it was too much confidence, too much pride, whatever it may be. But you gotta have confidence. You gotta have faith. However you want to look at that, religious or not, you gotta have faith. You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta have trust. Without those things, you're just always gonna be content with failure or lack of success. The quote, "I rather fail trying than to not try at all." You know what I mean? Like, I look at some of my friends, a good friend of mine, Lucian, Hot Chocolate. Ooh wee! My locals will get that one. But I mean, this guy is so inspiring. I mean, he just crewed a friend at a 200K. He crewed him for 52 miles and then signs up the next day for the 100 miler next week that I'm running. And you know what? I know he can do it. He's got that push, the drive, the will, the motivation. The one thing that I think separates the short and middle distance runners from the ultra runners, that ability to just put your head down and go. Embrace the suck, embrace the pain, push through the boredom, all the negativity that you're gonna go through. That's what makes the ultra runners that little bit more crazy and daring to go out and do some stuff like that. So yeah, as I wrap this episode up, man, it's this weekend, Long Haul 100, new things that I'm gonna experience at this race. A lot of it I can expect. I've heard stories, read reviews, talked to people that have done it, and none of that really matters because everything can change when you get out there. But I'm excited, I'm anxious, I'm ready to go. The next episode, I'll talk about the race, I'll recap it, the good, the bad, the ugly. I just gotta remind myself to run the mile that I'm in, grind the lows, ride the highs, and just have fun. Make sure you keep having fun. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. You know what I mean? So before I go again, I just, I thank everyone who's played the first episode, anyone who's subscribed, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it may be. I truly appreciate it. You guys don't understand, when somebody has a hobby and they're not even making money off of it. If it's a business, I get it. You're grinding, you're trying to make money, so that, but if you're doing it for free just because you love something, you have a passion for it, man, it's so different. So I don't get as much love and support as I expect, especially with the following that I have on social media. But I'll tell you what, the people that do, I truly appreciate you guys. And if I can ever find a way with one of the brands that I represent to hook you guys up with something, I'll do everything I can, because I truly appreciate the support, just the help to promote my passion, my hobby. So yeah, as my boy Lucian would say, ooh wee! I'll see you guys next week.